So we should start, or maybe we might wait 1 minute, or
I think we can start digging it.
we can start. Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, and a very warm welcome to Making Inclusion Count, Cambodia's Disability Marker in Action. We are really, really glad you are here with us today. My name is Dagenet Watango Doiso. I am Technical Advisor at Global Program Inclusion of Persons with Disabilities at GIZ, based in Germany. And I will be co-moderating today's webinar together with my colleague, Charles Knox-Wittmanov. Charles, would you like to say a quick hello?
Thanks, Dagenet. Hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Charles. I am a social policy specialist focused on inclusive social protection and disability at UNICEF. Very much looking forward to the session today. Back to you, Dagenet.
Yes, thank you, Charles. We are also grateful to have a team working behind the scenes today, taking care of tech support, managing the chat and Q&A, and also very important, providing live captioning service. Thank you all for your support. Today's webinar has been brought to you by the Joint Help Desk for the implementation of the Amman-Berlin Declaration in collaboration with our Cambodian partners. And more words to come on what this secretariat is and what it does. Can you turn the slide to the housekeeping items? Yeah, before we get started, a few practical things to keep in mind. We have turned off some functions of your Teams, such as your camera, microphone, as said in the beginning, and the chat functions for smooth delivery. And professional live captioning service is being provided. The link has just been posted in the chat, so you can open this from your chat on a second device if you have one, or on a separate device, and you can also customize this based on your preferences. One note on privacy, please note that this session is being recorded, so the recording will be shared with the registered participants after the event. So in case you prefer not to appear in the recording, please refrain from turning on your camera or giving any verbal comments. We encourage you to submit your questions throughout the session using the Q&A function. There will be a dedicated opportunities also after the selected presentations to ask your questions and directly engage with the speakers. And for this, you might use the raise hand feature of your Teams, and we will invite you to unmute your microphones. We are also going to conduct from time to time some polls during the session, and we will encourage everyone to participate. To the agenda slide, please. So we have reached 90 minutes today ahead of us. We start with a small introduction to the Amman-Berlin Declaration, and then we will hear opening words from Germany and Jordan. And from there, we move to the heart of today's session, which is Cambodian story, covering the process behind disability inclusion marker, its key design features, and the preliminary data after the introduction of the marker. And then this will be followed by a Q&A, which will, of course, give you the chance to directly engage with the speakers. And this is followed by a presentation on the role of organizations of persons with disabilities in monitoring disability inclusion within official development assistance in Cambodia. And then we will close the webinar by introducing you to those who don't know yet about the Joint Help Desk, and final questions and answers. Reach 90 minutes ahead. Now, Charles, I will hand over to you. We will tell us what you want to do for a quick pulse check. Over to you, Charles.
Thanks so much, Deginet. So yeah, to get before we get started with some of the main parts of the webinar, we wanted to get a little bit of a sense of where you are as participants, and we want to make this as interactive as possible. So we have a couple of questions for you that will appear as polls in the Teams. So if we could kick off with question 1, hopefully the poll will appear. Let's just wait for that to come up. Excellent. So the first one is, have you been undertaking activities to implement the Amman-Berlin Declaration? So you can answer yes, actively, if you've been very active on that. Yes, perhaps still at the exploratory stage, so still exploring, not yet. Or maybe you're not even quite sure what the Amman-Berlin Declaration is yet, and you're still at the initial stages of understanding this. So yeah, if you could click on the multiple choice question that appears, we can wait a few moments and then see what some of the results are. No. So I don't know how many we've had in terms of responses come through so far. I'm not sure I can see that on the panel. 1 second. Okay. Just Felix Sorki, I can't actually see how many people have responded yet, so maybe you can tell me when you think we have a good number, and then we can see the results. Okay, so the results, so we had a good number responding. We had 25 responses in total, and we have a bit of a mix, but in fact, the biggest number are 32% are actively undertaking activities on the Amman-Berlin Declaration, which is great. But we also have a good number who are still at that exploratory stage, and others who are not yet starting that activity and are also others still trying to understand a bit what the Amman-Berlin Declaration is all about. So hopefully that we'll be able to answer some of these questions in the session today. Let's just move to the second question quickly, which is, what is your main expectation from this webinar today? And this one is actually an open text, so you can just write whatever you whatever you think in just 2, 3, 4 words, and then we'll have a word cloud appear and be able to see what some of the thoughts are that you have. Okay, so we already have a few responses coming through. Let's wait for some more to come. That'll give you a few moments for you to write some thoughts. Great, I think we have about 5 responses. Let's give just about 30 seconds for people to share their thoughts, and then we'll share the view that we have. Excellent. Just a couple more seconds for a few more ideas and thoughts. Great. I think we can probably launch and show the results for everyone to see now. Great. So hopefully you can all see that. Well, indeed. So, I mean, at the center of our word cloud is Cambodia. So I think everyone here is eager to learn about this experience of what Cambodia has been doing with the ODA marker. But there are also various other ideas coming up here, a little bit about the sharing of experience, how the marker is actually being used, some of the kind of practical approaches and in practice examples of how one can move forward the work on the Amman-Berlin Declaration. Which is exactly what we're here for today. So I think on that basis, I'll move back to Deginet, and he's going to start with a bit of an introduction of what the marker is all about, which will be a refresher for some of you, but maybe also a bit of an introduction for others. So over to you, Deginet.
Thank you so much, Charles, and thank you all for your active engagement so far. Yeah, in the next 3-4 minutes, I will tell you about the Amman-Berlin Declaration. It might be a repetition for some of you, but it might be also a good opportunity to learn about it again. So yes, the Amman-Berlin Declaration is a document that is set out to improve disability inclusion in international development cooperation, and that is in line with Article 32 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. It's a political declaration, which means that it doesn't have legally binding nature. Regardless, it represents a very good potential milestone in the advancement of the rights of persons with disabilities in international development cooperation. This declaration was designed by the co-hosts of Global Disability Summit 2025, Germany, Jordan, and International Disability Alliance. And it was also consulted by a group of like-minded partners, including donor countries, UN agencies, and international financial institutions. And even to make sure the declaration was grounded in solid technical evidence, the co-hosts drew on insights from pilot studies undertaken by UNICEF in some selected countries, of course, Cambodia included, in Kenya, Sierra Leone, and Jordan. Next slide, please. The declaration contains a number of objectives in the wider sense, but the most important ones are two specific targets. So I will go through them quickly. So the first target is, it reads, I will directly read, I think it's better. We will strive, yes, for all our international development programs to be inclusive of and accessible to persons with disabilities by actively making a positive contribution to inclusive and full equality, to non-discrimination, and by doing no harm. This simply means that all development programs should address the rights of persons with disabilities in their design, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. And I will come now to the lovely target, 15% for the 15%. Which reads, we will strive to ensure that at least 15% of international development programs being implemented at a country level pursue disability inclusion as an objective, which would mean that we will strive to reach this 15%. I mean, this 15% target is both realistic and also ambitious. It's realistic because in some countries, these figures are much higher, and in other countries it's much lower. So it takes the ambition to this 15%. Based on the data we have, we are at the average of 6 to 7%. So, and with this declaration aims to achieve the 15% target by the time of the next GDS, which will be hopefully held in 2028, and it will be achieved by the joint efforts of all of us here today, donors, recipients, and most importantly, organizations of persons with disabilities. The final point, next slide. We are now showing you a map of countries that have endorsed the Amman-Berlin Declaration as of this month. This map contains both donor and recipient countries and also other agencies. At the end of this webinar, we will be sharing with you the link, so you will look into the full list of these endorsements. And this list also keeps growing. So yeah, here I should stop talking now and invite one of our excellencies, our speakers, Mrs. Birgit Frank, to give her opening words. Mrs. Frank is a senior policy officer and a focal point for the follow-up of Global Disability Summit 2025 at Division 102, which is Human Rights, Gender, Children's and Youth Rights, Basic Education in the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ. Mrs. Frank, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Deginit, for this very kind welcome and introduction. Good morning and good afternoon, distinguished colleagues, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. It's a really pleasure for me to welcome you all to this webinar, Making Inclusion Count, Cambodia's Disability Marker in Action. On behalf of the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, I am particularly delighted to welcome our esteemed speakers that we will have today. Dr. Muhannad Al-Azeh from the Higher Council for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities of the Kingdom of Jordan, Mr. Kri Sererit from the Council for the Development of Cambodia, Dr. Lisa Marie Ouedraogo-Wazi from UNICEF, and Ms. Monica Mack from the Cambodian Disabled People's Organization. I would really like to take also this opportunity to warmly congratulate Dr. Muhannad Alasseh on his re-election as a member of the CRPD that has just taken place recently last week in New York. Dr. Muhannad, we are really glad that we can count on you for your continued and successful collaboration on disability inclusion.
Thank you.
Now, a very special welcome also to all of our participants joining us from all around the globe. I'm reading that we are having now more than 46 participants, which is really great. Maybe later on in the Q&A, we learn a little bit from which countries you are joining us. Yeah, and big thanks, of course, for Cambodia for hosting us for this very specific and special event. Almost 1 week ago, during UNICEF's and Jordan's side event on financing disability inclusion at the COSP last week, Gopal Mitra, the global lead on disability inclusion of UNICEF, made it very clear why we are here, because he said, and now I'm quoting him, disability inclusion cannot advance at scale if financing remains fragmented, short-term or invisible in budgets. We need stronger domestic investment, better alignment of international cooperation with national priorities, and more transparent tracking of disability-related expenditure. And now I end the quote. Well, I couldn't say it better. This is why I was quoting Gopal Mitra, because I really, this catches this very good. And with the Amman-Berlin Declaration on Global Disability Inclusion, which the co-hosts of the GDS 2025, Germany, the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan, and the International Disability Alliance, together with UNICEF and other partners, we have created a milestone to really accelerate and increase meaningful investment in disability inclusion. And I think it's not a secret if I would say that it has been a success to date, because to date the declaration counts 103 endorsements of governments, regional organizations, UN entities, and development banks. And I can tell you that the interest is still there and the number of endorsements keeps growing. So if someone of you is joining from a country that has not been has not endorsed yet, we are always open to get new endorsements. Now, I think I do not have to repeat one of the key targets that has been presented by Degenet of the Amman-Berlin Declaration, as you know, is that by 2028, at least 15% of international development programs at country level explicitly pursue disability inclusion as a goal. Now, meeting this ambition will hinge on two essentials. First, a rigorous monitoring system with reliable data, and second, the meaningful, sustained engagement of organizations of persons with disabilities. Now, as we are now moving 1 year after the GDS from endorsement to action, a significant gap has become increasingly clear. We do need more data on the extent to which official development assistance is designed with disability inclusion as an objective. Because without that data, it is very difficult to know whether we are making progress, where the gaps are, and where efforts need to be strengthened. And this is precisely where Cambodia's experience comes in and where it becomes so relevant for all of us today. Cambodia, also with the big support of UNICEF, has taken concrete steps to monitor the implementation of the Amman-Berlin Declaration by developing its own national disability marker and integrating it directly into its ODA database. Now, of course, every context is different, and what proved effective in Cambodia will not always translate wholesale elsewhere. Even so, we believe that Cambodia's experience is instructive because it does offer a concrete case to think with. It is an opportunity to reflect on what approaches could work within your own national systems, which elements of Cambodia's experience might be relevant to your setting, and where a distinctly different course may be required. We are we are still early enough in the implementation of the declaration that this kind of reflection is exactly what is needed. Turning commitments into tangible results on the ground will hinge on the meaningful participation of organizations of persons with disabilities at every stage. Now, the joint help desk that has been already mentioned and that will be presented to you later during this meeting has been created to help endorsing countries to really implement the Amman-Berlin Declaration. It brings together the expertise of GIZ, UNICEF, the United Nations Global Disability Fund, and the International Disability Alliance. And colleagues there stand ready to support countries in exploring what next steps make sense for them. Now, I'm really looking forward to hearing from our speakers, our experts today, especially, of course, the Cambodian government. And I hope this webinar will spark genuine reflection and inspire ideas that are grounded in your own realities. Thank you all, and I wish you a productive and inspiring session. And now it's my pleasure to hand over to our dear Dr. Muhannad Al-Azeh. Very grateful that Germany and Jordan, together with UNICEF, are co-hosting this webinar jointly, because it really demonstrates that the name Amman-Berlin Declaration lives up to its promise. So over to you, over to Deginet, who will introduce Dr. Muhannad, and then over to Dr. Muhannad. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Funk. Over to you, Dr. Muhannad. So Dr. Muhannad is the Secretary General in the Higher Council of Persons with Disabilities in Jordan. So now talking from my side, we will hear from you. The floor is yours, Dr. Muhannad.
Thank you very much, Degnit. Thank you, Birgit, Lisa, all colleagues in BMZ, GIZ, and of course, Cambodia, UNICEF, and everybody with us here. And it's really an honor to me to be in this webinar to talk about my favorite subject, which is Amman-Berlin Declaration. Maybe I will go a little bit technical, not too much, but also within the policy context. As I indicated in the joint side events, which just Birgit mentioned in her remarks in New York, the good thing about Amman-Berlin Declaration to me that when we finished the first draft and when we started together, BMZ, Jordan, and International Disability Alliance, to take the feedback from different partners, the same questions, I would say maybe same concerns, same, like clarifications, which were requested. They reminded me exactly with Article 32 when it was just a draft and then chair text during the ad hoc committee between 2005-2006, because this particular article in the CRPD, it took, I would say, a very deep debates between state parties at the time. And most of these debates, they were political, of course, in an economic context, if you like. Because the concern of, first of all, international cooperation is very unique in CRPD. We don't have similar article in any of similar human rights treaties, whether CRC, CEDAW, or any other, like ICCPR even. And then the concern was at the time from the global north, from the what's so-called at the time the developed countries and the donors, that how can we ensure that international cooperation will not be interpreted as entailing full responsibility on us in order to support the implementation of the CRPD, and then how to ensure that some countries, maybe with very limited resources, will not take international cooperation or this article as a justification, maybe to relinquish, to give up, or not to implement some of their obligations. On the other side, the global south or the developing countries, they have their own concerns, and they said how we can accept that we have to be equally obliged and in compliance with the CRPD within a reasonable time frame, whereas first, the international cooperation right now as it is, it doesn't support the disability at all. It's not at the agenda of the donors. And second, how to ensure that we will still have the ownership, we will still have our, rights to identify our national priorities, regardless the, any kind of agendas or programs for the donors. And this is why Article 32, it includes now 2 paragraphs addressing these 2 concerns. In my opinion, as a person with a legal background, in a good and a very good, I would say, maybe formula and language. So similar, and of course, I mean, the question was, how do we mean by international cooperation in the disability context? What does it mean? Does it mean specific programs, activities, or all programs must be inclusive? Approximately, we had the same questions during drafting the Amman-Berlin Declaration and trying to receive some feedback. And to me, as I said in the mentioned side event, this particularity, this unique characteristic for this document, to me, it really connected the past with the present to bring, I would say, a promising future for persons with disabilities and for all. Because Amman-Berlin Declaration aims to make the international cooperation on the international relations in the development context inclusive for all. If we really implement the declaration in a very deep and in a very, I would say, thoughtful way, because making this practice by both Global South and Global North will constitute a very important conceptual element in the international cooperation that regardless the type of the programs, regardless the type of the allocated budget, it should be inclusive for all. In particular, persons with disabilities, yes, according to this declaration, but again, within the practice and during the implementation, I'm sure this will expand to include others. And it's already in the declaration because the declaration also indicates minorities and persons with disabilities. So the good thing also that the declaration came on time because we've been wondering here at the national level, for example, even before 2022, which is the year that Jordan and Germany were identified as the coming 2 co-hosts for 2025 GDS. we had an experience here that we tried to think about the best way to make our financing system inclusive for persons with disabilities. And we said, let us start with the state budget and the governmental units budget. And what we could do at the time, that we came up with an idea which we thought it's very, or maybe it's simple and easy to be perceived by entities who never ever think about disability or about financing disability inclusion. Maybe they didn't even hear the term. So we said, let us start with a decree or kind of instructions from the Council of the Ministers in Jordan for the line ministries: health, education, employment, public works, transportation, to allocate 1% of their total annual budget to implement their obligations, which set forth in the disability rights law in Jordan. And it was approved, and here the challenge really emerged and the struggle started, because we didn't know and we didn't find an expert who can really track this, who can really come up with a clear, reliable marker to do this. And we found it very subjective from some ministries who were telling us, look, we are allocating more than 1%. And when we revised their budget and their annual action plan, we found, of course, huge gaps between both of them. And they considered some expenses, for example, related to, like the running cost, expenditures or expenses, even some, like allocated money for discriminatory practices from our point of view, like the institutionalization, for example, maintenance or increasing the capacity or whatever. They considered it as, part of the 1%. However, this is why we now working with GIZ here in Jordan, and we are on the same path of our friends in Cambodia. We have a project called We Are Committed. In this project, we are trying to build on your experience and, of course, to benefit from your experience in order to develop an, like trustful, transparent national marker to monitor and to track the implementation of Amman-Berlin Declaration. Second issue, and I will conclude with this, because we are profound believers in the subject and in this document, we decided together, Germany and Jordan, through joint effort, to elevate the document by taking it to a higher level and put it in a UN context. So this is why I advocated with very generous support from BMZ and GIZ in the CRPD committee, with my colleagues, the members in the committee, to start process to develop general comment on Article 32 based on Amman-Berlin Declaration, and the decision was approved in March, despite the challenge and the strong resistance from OHCHR due to the liquidity crisis from UN. But again, thanks to BMZ, because they facilitated this jointly with the International Disability Alliance, and now we are working on finalizing the TOR and identifying the experts who will support the committee and the working group of the committee to come up with this general comment on Article 32. And good news, I proposed to Qatar in a bilateral meeting in New York that maybe they can think about giving spot or giving kind of recognition in the fourth GDS to the best, for example, 3-4 countries that developed and implemented and monitored the Amman-Berlin Declaration in a scientific and reliable, like method at the national level. And I'm sure Cambodia and I hope Jordan will be among these countries. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mohanad, for these reflections. We are a bit behind our time, but I think we will manage. Now we will move to the heart of course, everything was important, what was said before, but for Cambodia's story now. And I'm pleased to share, to introduce Mr. Chris Hererit. Mr. Chris Hererit is Acting Director of the Department of Cooperation of UN agencies at the Council of Development of Cambodia. Chris Hererit, please take the floor.
Yes, good morning and good afternoon. Yes, first of all, I would like to extend my warm greeting to Ms. Bridget Frank, Senior Policy and Focal Point for the follow-up of GDS 2025. Mr. Dr. Mohamed, Secretary General, highest concern for the right person with disability, Jordan. And Ms. Lisa, Chief of the Social Policy and Disability Inclusion Focal Point at the UNICEF Cambodia. Yes, today I have my great honor to give a presentation on the process toward of ODA disability maker in Cambodia. Yes, and yes, in my presentation, yes, I have 4 points that will illustrate in my slide. First one is the overview of the Council for the Development of Cambodia. Yes, I will brief you the role and responsibility of CDC. What are we doing and what will we do? Yes, and the overview of Cambodia ODA database. And the third, we overview of disability inclusion marker in ODA database. And finally, we will have the overview of the GI marker trend in Cambodia. Yes, next slide, please. Yes, yes, the Council for the Development of Cambodia, or in short, you will in my section is we call Cambodia Development Cooperation Board, or in short we can call CDCB. So as the government institute responsible for coordinating development cooperation and promote the effectiveness partnership between Royal Government of Cambodia and the development partners. Our work is guided by the 3 goals. First one is to promote the effective development cooperation that support Cambodia's sustainable and inclusive development. In other words, we make sure that the support Cambodia receive from the international partner in line with the national priorities. The second is the strengthened partnership between Cambodia Royal Government of Cambodia and the development partners such as UN agency and bilateral donor, and also civil society, non-governmental organization, and also private sector and other relevant stakeholders. The third is to enhance the aid effectiveness and development cooperation effectiveness. As you see that there is our current strategic in your right hand, you see that the book that I post illustrate in my slide is the Development Cooperation Partnership Strategy 2024 and 2028 that we are now currently implement it. And the approach that we the strategy mainly focus is the work with all the ministry and development partners to ensure all the project and all the program that are designed and implemented is thinking about effective use of effective and transparency and accountability. Next slide, please. Yes, beside the strategy on the working approach, we have one main system that play a very critical role that contain a lot of projects and programs which have been implemented and also implemented in Cambodia. Yes, as you can see the slide that show we have in your right hand at the top, you see the main building of CDC, and also we have two platforms that we enter the data. One is entered by development partner, multilateral or bilateral partners such as UN agencies or IFIS agency. They enter their project to store in that database. And at the down, we can see about the non-governmental organization project that currently implement in Cambodia, that they record their general information about their project, and the plan of disbursement, the plan of disbursement, and also actual disbursement, and also have many questionnaires that contain in that to ensure that all the projects have mainstream, also has disbursed into the right sector or the right sector on the right criteria that are really aligned with the government priority and the national priority in the development of the social and economic. Yes. Yes. Next slide, please. Yes. In that context, the scope of ODA Cambodia, the scope of Cambodia ODA database has evolved significantly. Data collection focus on primarily on the sector-based development assistance. However, currently we have a close cooperation with UNICEF in Cambodia to design the mainstreaming marker. Yes, and we also have this criteria that we work. Yes, Cambodia ODA database record all development cooperation projects, as I mentioned earlier in my slide presentation, and the scope. Also, we also think about the cross-cutting sector, such as gender, climate change, and the private sector development. And now we also have one special tool is disability inclusion that we design into our database. Yes, next, please. Yes, the beginning at the work of the disability inclusion marker in Cambodia, we have through many trends. We provide training to the trainers to Council for the Development of Cambodia. That those of them are the focal point that work closely with all the data operator, or I mean that data entry person that they entry all the data into the database system. So they work and they try to persuade them to choose the criteria of the disability inclusion in the database, that we can collect all the information to generate as a figure and to reuse much information as possible as we can. Yes, you see that in my slide. Yes, we have several technical meetings we discuss the integration of disability inclusion marker into Cambodia database. And in such as in the September 2025, the DI marker was successfully incorporated into the ODA database in the definition inclusion included in the ODA database user manual under Annex 5 and 6. Subsequently, in October 2025, with the support of UNICEF, the CDCB organized the first internal training session on the DI marker of CDCB staff and development partner. Yes, and the next please. Okay. Yes. Yes. In the second, yes. The second, we show you a little bit regarding to the sector of the disability inclusion marker. Yes. In Cambodia ODA database, we enter the data based on the project's information. So the project show the sector that which sector that they are support to the government in their project, such as now we have economic sector, we have social sector, and also we have a governance sector. In that, both of them more than around 20 sector, and we also have many subsector. In each sector, we have subsector also. In that case, for like disability that we put in our database currently is we have one sector that called disability inclusion, and then we have 7. Yes, we have 7 subsector such as employment and economic inclusion, inclusive health care and rehabilitation, inclusive education and lifelong learning, disability inclusive social assistance, inclusive and accessibility, civil community, right, justice, and gender, and climate resilience. All those are the subsector that under the pillars of the disability inclusion. Yes, and also we have a subsector, and we have one more is a cross-cutting thematic that are all the mainstreaming. If the project not direct support to the disability inclusion, we also have the mainstream criteria that they can choose in each project. That does the project is contribute to the disability inclusion or not. So all the data entry we entry which criteria we have no, minor, moderate, or significant. That all that their project have considered or take into account or not. Yes. Next, please. Yes, in this, we have disability inclusion now that we are put in our system. Yes, that I have mentioned earlier in the previous slide. Yes, that we scoring that this and all this we can use for the basic information that we can analyze and we can manipulate to learn the amount that all the data show and how we can strengthen the disability inclusion in Cambodia. Yes. Next, please. Yes. For the last but not least is I'm not have much talking about that because the next presentation might be UNICEF. Mr. Philip will describe much detail on that. So I just put this just extra information that show in my last slide. Yeah, more the project maintain mainstream disability between 2023-25 demonstrate slight commitment and inclusive development. Disbursement for disability inclusion project are also increased steadily between 2023 and 2025. The level of contribution remain moderate throughout the reporting period. Yes. Okay, and yes, this is what I show you all. Yes, and I think my presentation might be end for this, and I hope for my presentation would make you happy and you can have question. Okay, if you have any question, welcome to you all.
Thank you so much, Chris Arif. I mean, I think it's a fascinating description and an explanation of how the approach of the Amman-Berlin Declaration has really been kind of institutionalized within the system in Cambodia. And we'll continue to explore the data and what that means in just a moment, in a few moments. I just wanted to flag that if anyone has any kind of questions as we move through, I mean, we are aiming for a short Q&A session, probably more towards the end. But if you have any Q&A, then questions, then there's a little button at the top of your window where it says Q&A. So if you have any questions and want to add them in, some of them maybe we can even respond directly, or we can we'll be able to highlight, I think, some of the key questions in our session at the end. But without further ado, we're now going to move a bit on to more digging into the data, as Cree mentioned. And so we'll pass to Lisa Marie Ouedraogo Wasi from UNICEF in Cambodia.
Thank you so much, Charles, and good afternoon, good morning, distinguished participants. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, we hear you great.
Okay, great. Dear Birgit, Frank, and dear Dr. Muhammad Alazeh, very great to have you part of this event today. Dear colleagues from the CDC, CDPO, dear Deginet and Charles, our dear MCs today, dear colleagues and friends. My name is Lisa Marie. I work for UNICEF in Cambodia here, and I'm presenting today on behalf of UNICEF Cambodia on how Cambodia has taken a practical step to fix a persistent gap in development accountability and building a system at national level aimed at tracking whether aid actually includes persons with disabilities. Next slide, please. So yeah, I think we have heard a little bit from our colleague in Cambodia. I will give a bit of context why we actually need to track ODA projects, then I will say even a bit more about Cambodia's DI marker, and you will have the privilege to be the first audience ever to see the very fresh data that has been generated by CDC. And then we will also share some lessons, what we have learned, what we are still learning. Next slide, please. So why is this so important, and why is Cambodia's experience so vital and important? I think ODA has historically proven for too long to be blind to the vulnerabilities, needs, and inclusion of persons with disabilities. And we see that data from over 60% of ODA is not tracked for disability inclusion. So we simply don't know. What we do know is that currently only 9.8% of ODA globally is disability inclusive, as we see here in the image as well, and just 0.1% is disability targeted. That's a deficit we're talking about today. And this isn't a gap of goodwill, it's a gap of systems and accountability. The CRPD, specifically Articles 31 and 32, oblige signatories to ensure disability inclusive data and aid, but monitoring and enforcement remain weak. Next slide, please. Just very quickly, I think we have heard a lot about the Amman-Berlin Declaration. It has been a coalition for inclusion and endorsed by 100 plus signatories, as we heard, including the most of the OECD countries, UN agencies, multilateral banks, and the 15 target is the concrete goal here. So that at least 15% of country-level development programs should have disability inclusion as an objective. But commitments without tracking are just words, and that's the gap Cambodia is currently addressing, amongst other countries. Next slide, please. The OECD DAC marker, I think many of us are familiar with that, is the existing international standard. So development partners self-report whether disability inclusion is a project objective. We have 3 levels as shown here: principal, which is score 2, significant, score 1, and not targeted, which is score 0. This provides a standardized basis for comparison, but it relies on donors' self-assessment, which limits its independence and depth. Cambodia took this OECD standard as a reference to align with the Amman-Berlin Declaration and its commitments, but also introduced a few features that went significantly further, as we already saw, and I will go a bit deeper here as well. Next slide, please. So Cambodia's DI marker, as you see here, has 4 levels. So it uses the same logic as the OECD DAC marker, but introduces a new level as well. So it goes from significant, moderate to minor and no inclusion. So that gives us a bit of greater nuance. And it's also embedded directly, as we heard from my dear colleague before, it's embedded directly in the Council for the Development of Cambodia's, the CDC ODA database, alongside with other gender and climate markers that has been in place for a while. So this makes disability tracking part of routine government reporting and is not an add-on that is separate to other processes. It's a country-led approach driven by government-side data collection, not only donor self-assessment alone. And this is a shift in ownership that we feel is fundamental. Next slide, please. There are 2 key features that go specifically beyond the global standard, we feel. The first one is the OBD engagement reporting. So Cambodia's marker also captures whether organizations of persons with disabilities were consulted or involved in the project cycle. So this is a dimension no other marker currently tracks systematically, and it speaks very closely also to the objectives of the Amman-Berlin Declaration. The other key feature is a sector-specific reporting, which is aligned with Cambodia's National Disability Strategic Plan, the NDSP3. So we can track inclusion across sectors that the country itself has identified as priorities. And you can see a list of 7 priorities here, which is employment, economic inclusion, inclusive healthcare, inclusive education, social assistance, inclusive and accessible communities, rights, justice, and gender. And number 7 is climate resilience. Next slide, please. Now it's becoming exciting because this data has not been shown. So let's move to the next slide. And please, to all of you, this is still preliminary data, and also that was agreed with our CDC colleagues. Please not to share further. We are still also doing the deeper analysis, but we felt it was a good opportunity today to share this. So now we see a bar chart where we can see that 42% of ODA activities have not been, has no disability inclusion objective, 12% has a minor one, 11% moderate, 2% significant, and then also 32% were not scored. So this is for this exercise. We are looking specifically at development projects that started between 23 and 26. And this shows a bit of the overall landscape. As you see, the majority of projects score at the lower end, which isn't surprising for our first year of tracking, but it also establishes our baseline. So the number we aim to shift over time. Next slide, please. Now we see another bar chart showing yearly allocable ODA activities by disability marker score. So this shows how it has been evolved by year, and we can see this from 23 to 26. 26 shows a very kind of a drop, as you can see, which is mainly because we have less projects starting in 26. And I think what is encouraging to see that in 26, there is no single project that has not been scored. So it's actually a mandatory requirement now to score your ODA project in Cambodia. Every ODA project has to go through this database. And thanks to CDC to make this quickly mandatory. Next slide, please. Here we see the fund distribution by disability inclusion level, another 2 bar charts, and I know we don't have time for the details. You can do that at your own time later. But we can here see that a small number of large projects can dominate ODA flows. And so even if many projects score well, the bulk of funding may still be going to lower scoring activities. And this slide reveals that. At the left side, an average fund distribution, it looks quite solid. But if we look at the total fund distribution, the DI allocations look quite minimal. So yeah, per project, we see still a sizable allocation that goes to disability inclusion as a priority on the left side. Next slide, please. So coming to who is in the room here, who are the major players, we can see there are some champions. I think Australia has been doing a good job, coming very close to even 20% of significantly marked projects. We have other countries as the UK, Korea, France, Czech Republic. I think Germany has just introduced the marking system, so they're on a good way as well. But we see there are different players with different levels. Next one, please. If you look at multilateral organizations, again, we see some champions and some that are still on the way, but I think that is expected. Next slide, please. This is actually one of our headline metrics, the share of projects scoring moderate or above, which is our threshold for meaningful inclusion. And to track this year on year is how we will measure the progress towards the ABD's 15 for the 15 target. So that would show us where are we now and what does the trajectory look like. Next slide, please. I know we are running out of time. Just quickly, I've mentioned the different sectors, and we can see in the data that just came from CDC that all sectors not perform equally. So that gives us a good overview on which sectors we need to focus on, like gender, social protection, and health are doing relatively well, while in other sectors we still may want to focus more. Next slide, please. Looking at the financing modality, how aid is delivered, of course, shapes how inclusion is tracked. So this slide also asks how does the financing modality intersect with disability inclusion? And we can see that most of the projects with greater disability inclusion as an objective are financed through grants. Next one, please. So here we can see a similar lens, but looking at which channel projects are delivered bilaterally, multilaterally, by NGOs, government to government. And I think one significant contributor is the Access 2 program that many of you are familiar with, and that is here kind of hidden in other by under significant as an other type. Yeah. Next slide, please. This is the last graphic. So this is kind of a map. So the data can give us also insights on where the projects are. And also this has clear implications on questions of equity. So certain provinces or regions can be consistently underserved regarding inclusive programming, and others can do quite well. So I think that helps us also to put in future a geographical focus. Next one, please. This is what I mentioned before, that the OPD involvement is being marked. And what we see is quite encouraging, that the significant marked projects also show a very high level of OPD involvement, engagement that goes far beyond consultation only. And that also shows us that this pillar is quite important. So if that matches significant and high level of OPD engagement, I think that's a very good result of a project evaluation. Next one, please. What we are still learning. I think this is about scoring consistency. So we have to deepen shared understanding across donors, implementing partners and sectors so that disability inclusion is assessed uniformly. So we will also do some follow-up trainings this year so everyone really knows how to score and mark. Also to capture nested portfolios so that some organizations implement within larger donor-led projects. So then we cannot really disaggregate so easily. Then also comparing with the OECD DAC mark, I think that's a kind of benchmarking that we could do with Cambodia's system against the global standard that would give a meaningful international comparison. And also deepening the data, exploring additional indicators, including OPD involvement across the product cycle and M&E framework. And also we frame this as a healthy learning and not a failure. So every data is more data that gives us evidence, and every country that takes this on will face maybe similar questions. Next slide, and that is my last one. What we have learned already, I think for us as UNICEF was quite good to see how the government took ownership. That was very critical. The CDC is really driving this. You just heard from the director how they're driving this. It's not a donor-driven process. It's built on existing relationships. It also builds on an IT infrastructure that, of course, matters. If a country doesn't have this infrastructure, there needs to be an initial investment. And then, of course, awareness raising is essential, and this is still ongoing. So embedding the marker requires sustained engagement. It's not a one-time training. We have to do it every few months again, at least at the start. Yeah, so let me close by saying that Cambodia's experience shows that disability inclusion in ODA can be tracked systematically, country-led, and with real teeth. The data is there if we build a system to capture it. And we hope that this model is useful to others. Thank you so much. And back to the moderators.
Thank you so much, Lisa Marie. And I think, I would just highlight that I think this is a very interesting, important moment in the process around the Amman-Berlin Declaration. To my knowledge, it's the first time that we've really been able to look at data like this that's collected in this systematic way at the national level. And as you pointed to, I think this creates kind of new opportunities for analysis and deeper kind of national level insights. So very exciting. I now wanted to pass to our next speaker, and maybe just before that to flag, we already have a question come through on the Q&A, but if there are any further questions that you're about the marker, about any elements that you're hearing about, please continue to add them in, and we can see if we can respond directly or highlight them in the short Q&A session at the end of the session. So yeah, without further ado, I would like to pass over to Monica Mack, who is Executive Director for the Cambodian Disabled People's Organization, and also country representative of the ASEAN Disability Forum. So please, over to you, Monica.
Okay, thank you very much, moderator. First, let me respect to delegate guest, dear friends, a senior policy officer at the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, and dear Dr. Maranat is from the Higher Council and the Right of People with Disability in Jordan, and also dear Diginet and Kales. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone joining us today. So my name is Monica Mack, but right now I'm present on behalf of Cambodia Disabled People Organization, CDPO. Today I want to share about perspective as an OPD in Cambodia disability inclusion marker, mainly the opportunity it creates, but it also what's the need to change to make effective tool for the accountability to try meaningful OPD engagement, and also translating the commitment on the paper into the real change into the life of person with disability. So right now, I will share you with the 4 areas. First, a little bit brief about introduction about CDPO and the Cambodian OPD movement. And then I will reflect on how the Cambodian have bring to the translating of GDS commitment into the action. And also need to share our perspective from the DPO side, OPD side, on the opportunity and limit on the DI markers. And the last one is also highlight what is the path ahead for the strengthening OPD engagement in ODA. So Organization for People with Disability, we call OPD everywhere. So we are the collective voice of people with disability, and our side is playing a critical role to promote the right, inclusion, and also meaningful participation in society. And we can find out not as a beneficiary, but as a right holder and decision makers. So from my side, I just bring a little bit that CDPO we started in 1994 and serve as Cambodian National Cross Disability Organization. And right now, currently, we have 67 organizations for people with disability and 12 women and children with disability forum and 24 youth with disability group across the country. And mostly we are reach out the person with disability across our country, include in remote and underserved community. We identify the 3 areas representing the voice of person with disability in community, nationality, and regional level, and also international level. And identify barrier, reporting concern to direct to authority in the rural area, and we advocate with the disability inclusion law and policy. And the last one, it seems like connecting with a person with disability who are available services to be the capacity building and our member as an organization to sustain this work. So just a brief, a little bit regarding to the Berlin in in Cambodia that we are right now. So in April 2025, CDPO participant in the GDS in Berlin, Germany. There is more than 4,700 participants over 160 countries, include government, OPD, UN agency, and development partners. So one is the most significant that outcome was adopted of the Amman-Berlin Declaration, the landmark, the commitment of the disability inclusion development include the target that at least 15% of ODA that our colleague mentioned, Lisa just mentioned, also our Cambodian government also highlight about that. At the country level, it's for sure that disability inclusion as an objective by 2028. So for us, from my side, submitted was not only the movement that just witnessed global committee being made, but one thing we need to make sure that it was an opportunity to contribute back to the Cambodian experience, learn from the international level good practice, and also the strengthening partnership that we working to translate into action from our home. And also following the submitted, CDPO, co-facilitate with the GDS National Workshop in Cambodia and together with the ASEAN Disability Forum and International Disability Alliance with support from BMZ, we brought together the government institution, UN agency, and also development partner and OPD to translate the global commitment into the concrete national priority. So it's not only in the national level, we also in regional level, CDPO participant in the post of GDS regional workshop by contribute the Cambodian experience and building collaboration with OPD and partner across the ASEAN level. So right now, beyond the workshop, we also, CDPO also actively working on ensure that GDS commitment translate into practical change on the ground. So we develop the consultation meeting among our members, OPD, and youth group on the assistive technology, filling funding, and also direct into the national advocacy aligned with ABD, commitment in independent living. We connecting and advocate with relevant stakeholders, especially our government ministry, for disability responsive social protection and inclusion local development planning. We are also engaged with the national institution to embed disability inclusion into the law and policy and also the programming. This one, we are more focused on supporting disability data, like Lisa also highlight about that, and evidence on the GDS commitment are being made and to make a case of the sustained investment. So the last one is the last one of the connecting is a social media campaign that we use that channel to public online event to promote the 15 commitment, helping the rest awareness on GDS commitment and insurance brothers engagement from the stakeholder. I just want to highlight that CDPO is committed to ensure that ABD does not remain a statement or intent, but it's become on the life and realities for people with disability in Cambodia. So right now, we'll share you a little bit regarding to the DI marker opportunity for OPD side. So the introduction of disability inclusion marker in Cambodia National ODA data by step forward. There are 4 from our side. From we make create 4 important. We have to make disability visible in DCA reporting and give us concrete data to advocate with, and rather than relying solely on the anecdotal evidence. Second, it's to the partner accountable. The markers allow us to compare, performance across donor and the project, and also to identify who among the signatories of the ABDs is actually, delivering on the DS commitment. So the third one, it creates the leverage of strategic coordination. CDPO is with our network can use that DI marker, we can say DI marker data to identify where to focus advocacy and also align with our export and engage government and development partner in hand. And the fourth one is create a formal interpoint for the OPD monitoring. So when DI is being trashed, it become that the harder to exclude OPD from the project design and evaluation. So the marker gives us a hope and for more basic to ask for the table, not only the paper, but also into the practice. So right now, we say about the limited of the DI marker. So the more fundamental issue is that the marker measure intent, not impact. So the project can be marked as a disability inclusion at the design stage without that ever translating into the real change of the life of people with disability. And the marker tells us that was planned and does not tell us about what delivers. So this is the main point that we're going to discuss and keep in our mind. So the equally concerning is the risk of the making without engagement. And also the project can receive a disability inclusion score without OPD errors being a meaningful concern. And when it happens, the marker becomes a box ticking the experience. The exercise, it creates the appearance of the inclusion without the sustain, and also the score is not same as the seat of the table. This is what we learned from the limit of the access to DI. And the marker also have limit, this get the data. It does not tell us which group of person with disability are actually being reached, or women with disability, youth person with several disability, and those in remote community can remain invisible even within the disability inclusion data. So create that blind slot that risk leaving the most marginalized is behind. This is a one point also we find out from that limited. So the final of the limited is there is a challenge to the building the common of understanding, reliable and comparison, making requirements, criteria, and also we don't have a clear guidelines, and capacity building across donor implementing team also. So beside of opportunity, beside all the limited, now I'm going to share with you about the pathway of strengthening OPD engagement or in ODA. So for the part of the CDPO, we have a clear message to well understand and to to really clear that from our side. I mean, the DI marker is starting point, but it's we only try real change if OPD engagement in structure and resource and accountable specific. CDPO would like to highlight 4 concrete shifts need to strengthening ODA's reporting and DI in development project. First, OPD must be at the table of day one. Too often, but we are the broad line the summer after the key decision making to have already been made and asked to the validate plan rather than shape them. And meaningful inclusion is being the project design, not only the implementation. Second one, engagement must become with the resource. Meaningful participation and cannot happen without investment. So the project marked under the DI marker must allow dedicate funding for OPD, capacity building, and cover for the technical skill data literacy and engagement and M&E process. And also with these, participants remain tokenistic and the markers become the missed opportunity. So the third one, OPD engagement must be institutionalization. On that, we cannot continue to rely on the project by project consultation. What is the need to stand mechanism that formalize structures and through the OPD engagement with development partner and the government on disability inclusion in developed project. So the fourth one, the markers must be linking and aligned with the accountability. So marks project, should carry clear disability inclusion and also the milestone that OPD can independent monitors and report again. This is the one thing we also find out from that. And without accountability, the marker measure cannot translate into real change on the ground. So we can say nothing else about us. So very important that these suggestions are fully aligned with the message that intention about the Amman-Berlin Declaration. And the principle is very clear, nothing else about us. We are not asking about consult, but we are asking to be recognized and partners. So thank you very much for your attention. So that's all from my side. If you have any question, please let me know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. And I think it's such an important contribution to the discussion. Not least, I think the way in which you provided that critical perspective on the role of the marker, highlighting the opportunities, but also the limitations. We know that this is only one part of the process and the discussion around this key question. We are quite tight in terms of the time for questions and answers, but what I was going to suggest is if anyone would like to raise their hand and ask a question verbally by unmuting their mic, please click and raise your hand. And what I'll suggest is based on those questions and those on the Q&A, if then any of our speakers want to make a brief maybe contribution and answer some element of those, then they can do so. So I'll wait to see if any hands are raised. None are raised so far. But maybe in the meantime, I'll just summarize, I think, a few of the questions that came through on the Q&A function. So Katya had a question with a couple of elements, which I think are really important. The first is really, I think I'd say how this links to that almost parallel but interlinked discussion about influencing national budgets. So we have the international cooperation financing, and we have national budget discussions and questions of disability inclusion there. And that was something that Dr. Muhammad, I think, highlighted, the kind of, when we think about financing, we're thinking of both of those. So there was a question of any insights on that, and also the question of transparency of data. I think we do see, from my understanding, that the ODA database in Cambodia is providing publicly available data, but it would be good to have, if any of our speakers want to contribute on that. And then just to highlight, there were a couple of questions from Ganem Toch that were more about how to kind of move a little bit beyond the disability inclusion just being marked in projects to ensure meaningful involvement of people with disabilities in the design and implementation, etc. And some of that may be addressed to some extent by Monica. And then there was a third, another question from Susanti that was about was asking if there are any clear eligibility criteria for a project to be labeled disability inclusive and to receive a marker such as minimum budget volume and beneficiaries reached. So I don't yet see any hands up for any questions. So I'll give the last opportunity if anyone wants to raise their hand, wants to share a question verbally, then please do so now. Otherwise, perhaps I would offer the opportunity to any of our speakers to answer any of those questions that I just summarized that are on the Q&A side. So I don't know if we have any volunteers. Equally, maybe if our speakers raise their hands and wish to contribute. I think Lisa Marie, it seems you're unmuted, so I'll take that as a
yes, so happy to start, but maybe my colleagues will also add. I think it's a very interesting question. Thank you, Katja, for that. I think it can be complementing different national budget discussions. So what happened in Cambodia that we actually, besides supporting that marker, we also did a disability inclusive budget analysis. Charles was actually also involved there. So I think that gave us a good basis to also discuss with government on further investment. So I think it's kind of two pieces of one agenda to see how can donors contribute, but also how can the government have an eye on how they spend their money and how can we create fiscal space for disability inclusion. So in our case, that kind of walked hand in hand, I would say, and is very much complementing each other. But I mean, let's hear from maybe CDC how they see that in terms of how that could also influence national budget discussions. Thank you.
Oh, I think Creed, you're seeking to speak, but you're currently on mute, so if you could unmute and share your...
Okay.
Excellent, we can hear you now.
Okay, yes, thank you for this. I have a little bit contribution on that regarding to the national budget. Yes, actually, in order to the CDC mandate, we are not control the national budget. Yes, actually, the main role is Ministry of Mossavi and Ministry of Economic and Finance. I think both ministry is play a significant role that they can mobilize the national budget for the disability marker. Yes, because all they are the key ministry and they have they receive they accept the role and can report directly to the government leader on that. Yes. So I think CDC just play the coordinating role. Yes, in this case, and we can inform to all the development partner and NGO that when they create their strategy for the next step or the next phase, need to include or account to the disability in their strategy. Yes, because now, yes, all the development partners now they start to they can tell that especially we can do a midterm review. Yes, for all the program in Cambodia. For example, such as like UN agency, some agency, they do a midterm review evaluation that how far they work and how to adjust the indicator. So I think it is a best opportunity that all the issue that have been raised need to put on the table and to reconsider to mainstream all the disability inclusion activity should be reflect in their country strategy. Yes. Yes, that's all from me. Yes.
Thank you so much. So maybe then finally it would be good to provide the opportunity for Monica to, if you have any further reflections on some of the questions, including the participation, active participation of people with disabilities in its processes.
Yeah, thank you very much, moderator. I think it's very important question, and my answer is, work closely with the person with disability and OPD side. We need to connecting and provide the support with them. I can one thing it provide from our side. It mean let them in, count them in with the project design, and work together with them to make sure that all the disability inclusion inside the project, so that they can connect each other with the OPD side. This is from my point. Thank you very much. And one thing I would also one thing is capacity building is also very important to provide in terms of mechanism and support. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Monica. I think we're now coming broadly to the end of the webinar. Just before finishing, one thing I wanted to do was just share one slide on the joint help desk, which exists on the Amman-Berlin Declaration. So if you just flip to the next slide, and this is for everyone participating who may be looking at how to support and implement the implementation of the Amman-Berlin Declaration in your own country. So if you just click to that one next slide. So this is really just a highlight. We have this global joint help desk. It comprises of GIZ, the UN Global Disability Fund, UNICEF, and IDA. And we're operating at the global level, but also we've kind of set ourselves up so we have focal points supporting every single ODA recipient country that has endorsed the declaration. And there are a number of things that are kind of on offer. There are standardized trainings, online trainings that I think a number of you participating may have joined earlier in the year, and we're about to run a next set of trainings. There's the opportunity to provide some country-specific advisory services. There's space to do data collection and analysis. So I think for all countries, hopefully you're aware there are country data briefs on summarizing some of the data we have from the OECD on the disability marker, but we have the potential to go much deeper than that. And also a part of that is around, a key part is around capacity development for OPDs. I won't go into much more depth on this now, but just to say, if you have any question or request that you would like to ask about, then you can find the email here, gds-declaration@giz.de. So really, please do get in touch. And yeah, that's been shared on the Q&A by Felix just now. So I think we're a few minutes over, and thank you for your patience on the session. I think we can wrap up now, and I will just end by saying, first of all, just a few thank yous. I mean, firstly, thank you to the speakers. I mean, we had a very quite a busy agenda today with many different inputs and rich and detailed piece of information. So thanks to all our speakers for keeping really very well to time and being concise. And it was incredible how well each were able to communicate very important ideas and experiences within a short time. Secondly, I'd like to thank all the colleagues that were involved in facilitating and organizing this webinar and setting it up, including from the GIZ side, also the UNICEF Cambodia office, who really set up a lot of the functionalities and nuts and bolts in bringing everything together and making it work. And then I think I'll just say finally, thank you to all of you participants. It was great to see your active participation in this session. And I would just say this is the first, we hope, of a number of different kind of webinars where we would share some of the experiences of different countries, of different actors in implementing the Amman-Berlin Declaration. So I think that is all. So without further ado, I think we can close the session. Thanks again for all of your participation, and looking forward to the continued joint work on making the Amman-Berlin Declaration a reality. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Yes.